Before I begin, I want to introduce one of my colleagues. He is our shadow U.S. representative. He's the Honorable Frank Garcia, and he has another event that he has to get to later. So we're going to yield to our shadow U.S. representative to bring you some greetings.
Thank you very much, Senator Strauss, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C. I am the elected shadow member of Congress. And that's a funny title, believe it or not. When I go all over, people wonder, they say, well, what is a shadow member of Congress? What do you do? And I tell them, you know, this is actually not an invention of the District of Columbia. Shadow members of Congress have been elected almost with the starting of our nation. And so I basically go and meet with colleagues, 4 members of the House, and I ask them to help me support statehood for D.C. That's basically what I do. But I also wanted to let you know that you just went through a tour of our building and you saw the history that we have and all the things that we've gone through. And that's another thing, another source of amazement, to realize that, recognize that in the cradle of democracy, I have, let me just quickly recognize Doris, who is with the Embassy of the Dominican Republic, and that's where we're headed next. The ambassador is having an event, and so I asked her to come up with me. But one of the things that it's amazing is that here we are in the oldest running democracy in the world, and the one that preaches democracy throughout the world, and yet right here, the citizens of its national capital are treated really like second, perhaps third-class citizens. Because if you realize that while we have been able to advance our self-governance by having various things, you know, being able to vote for a mayor, and we amended the Constitution in '61 to allow us to participate in the presidential election, we still have a situation that is, to say the least, less than optimal. Because we have no voting representation in either house. Our laws, any of our laws that are passed at the local level, can always be overturned. Our judiciary system is really through the federal web. So if somebody gets incarcerated in the nation's capital, they can end up thousands and thousands of miles away, unlike a state where it normally is confined to the jurisdiction of the state. And so you wonder, why is it that we have allowed this thing to go so far, so long? We are the only free democracy in the world that does not allow the citizens of its national capital to participate in its national legislature. When I go around, I've gone to overseas to some places, people think that because we live in the nation's capital, that we have more rights and more access. In fact, we don't. What you see here is the local part of Washington, D.C. And there's a big divide between what's local D.C. and what is national D.C. Whenever you hear in the news, Washington, D.C., you hear people talk about Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. People think about a dysfunctional Congress, people who can't get along, people who are always bickering and fighting, the division of party politics. That has nothing to do with local Washington, D.C. And in fact, all those politicians that come in here, the 435 of them that come in here from all over, really have very little connection with the local people. You would think, as I was growing up, I actually was born overseas and came to Washington, D.C. when I was a young man, a young person, a child, 10 years old. And in my mind, I thought that, oh, how cool it is that I live in Washington, D.C. because I get to see all these important people and I get to mingle with them. And in fact, that couldn't be further from the truth. It is very, very difficult to see, for example, a member of Congress address, say, a local church in D.C. or a local community group. The divide is huge, and we need to change that. We need to change that because one of the arguments that members of Congress have is that in some ways, because we have no representation in either house, no voting representation, that they all serve to represent us. But we don't see that. We really do not see that. And so when I got elected back in 2014, I have been trying to bring more visibility at the international level. I held meetings of the Organization of American States, hoping that at some point the Secretary General would deem the situation that happens in the nation's capital one that needs resolved. We have yet to get there, but we're working on that. I try to go to the embassies and meet with all kinds of international figures to let them know that, locally we've struggled with this for over 200 years. And if we can't do it locally, perhaps internationally, perhaps with pressure from international embarrassment, not that we want to embarrass our own country, but if that's what it takes, then that's why we're reaching out to the international community to see if there's an additional pressure added by doing that. So I go to the embassies. We try to get overseas when we can, and we're allowed to, due to monetary constraints. But it's just really, it's a travesty, quite frankly, that we have to be spending 10 to 20 minutes of the welcoming remarks here to let you know what you probably know some of. The good thing is that the United States, it is the place where you can have people succeed anywhere, obviously, it's up to the individual, but in America, you actually truly can succeed if you put your mind to it and you work hard. And so there's a lot of goodness that comes from being here, and I am very appreciative of my adoptive country. And I just think that we just need to correct this one embarrassment that we have currently. But I know that you have a busy agenda today, and so I want to once again welcome you all, and I hope that you have a wonderful time. I mentioned that there's local Washington. There's a bunch of nice local restaurants. So while it's easy to stay within the confinements of what appears to be the federal city, please get out there. There's a place called Columbia Heights that's got a lot of different things and a lot of great restaurants. Get out into the community and truly know and learn what Washington, D.C. is. Thank you for the opportunities that are in for coming out here.